Lesson 110, using the quadratic formula. When we have a quadratic equation, we're going to have a variable that has a squared in it, like this x squared. We want to set it equal to 0. So the letter A is a coefficient of x squared, B is a coefficient of x, and C is the constant. So we can solve for x by using the formula x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And there is a song that goes with that, and I'm going to sing it for you. And then you guys are going to have to sing it during class. So it goes like this. X equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And that helps us with being able to solve quadratic equations and find out what x is. So here's an example. We want to solve this quadratic equation. 2x squared plus 6x plus 4 equals 0. So our a is 2, b is 6, and c is 4. So we use the formula x equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So since our b is 6, we have x equals negative 6 plus or minus the square root. B squared is 36 minus 4 times 2 times 4, which is 8 times 4, 32, all over 2 times 2, which is 4. So 36 minus 32 is 4. So we have x equals negative 6 plus or minus the square root of 4 divided by 4. So negative 6 plus 2 divided by 4 and negative 6 minus 2 divided by 4. Negative 6 plus 2 is negative 4 divided by 4 is negative 1. And I think that's going to be our second one. And negative 6 minus 2 is negative 8, divided by 4 is negative 2. So our solutions are negative 2 and negative 1. And you don't have to put it in braces. You can just put x equals negative 2 or negative 1. Here's another example. 3x squared minus x equals 2. So we want to make sure that we set it equal to 0. So we need a 0 on the right side. We're going to subtract 2 from both sides. We have 3x squared minus x minus 2 equals 0. Then we get our a, b, and c. A is 3, b is negative 1, c is negative 2. Then we use our formula x equals negative 1. So this is going to be a positive 1. Plus or minus the square root. B squared is 1 minus 4 times 3 times negative 2 all over 2 times 3. So this simplifies to 1 plus or minus the square root of, this is 12 times negative 2, negative 24. 1 minus a negative 24 is a positive 25 divided by 6. Square root of 25 is 5. So we have 1 plus 5 divided by 6, or 1 minus 5 divided by 6. So we have x equals 1 or x equals negative 4/6 or 2/3. So here is another example. I've got 2 more. Example 3. Negative x squared minus 10x plus 5 equals 0. So our a equals negative 1, b is negative 10, and c is a positive 5. So x equals negative b, so negative 10 is 10, plus or minus the square root. B squared is 100 minus 4 times 5 is 20 times a negative 1 is a negative 20. So this becomes a plus 20 all over 2 times negative 1 or negative 2. So it's 10 plus or minus the square root of 120 divided by negative 2. So the square root of 120 can simplify. Let's see how we write this. Square root of 120 equals the square root of 4 times the square root of 3 times the square root of 10. Those don't, 12, yeah. So it's 2 square roots of 30. So we have here 10 plus or minus 2 square roots of 30, all divided by negative 2. We can factor out a 2 in the numerator. So we'll put a 2 here, and we have 5 plus or minus square root of 30 divided by negative 2. This cancels, and we will have a negative 5 plus or minus square root of 30. So x can equal either of those numbers. These are the exact answers, and the approximate answers are x is approximately negative 10.477, or x is approximately 477 thousandths. All right, one more example. Example 4. 5x squared plus 4x plus 2 equals 0. So a equals 5, b equals 4, c equals 2. We have x equals negative 4 plus or minus square root b squared is 16 minus 4 times a times 5, so 20 times 2 is 40. 16 minus 40, all divided by 2a, which is 10. When you do 16 minus 40, you get a negative number. So x equals negative 4 plus or minus the square root of negative 24 divided by 10. We can't take the square root of a negative number and get a real solution. So the answer is there's no real solution. The way that this one would look on the graph would just be a parabola that does not cross the y-axis. I mean, the x-axis, sorry. There'd be no zeros. That's all part of example 4. Okay, that's the end of the lesson.